I never imagined that saying "I do" would lead me down a path of deception. From the moment Ethan suggested we settle in Portugal after our wedding, I had been swept up in romantic notions of Mediterranean sunsets and cobblestone streets. "It's where my career can really take off," he'd explained, detailing connections at a prestigious architectural firm. His enthusiasm was infectious, and as an artist who could work anywhere, I readily agreed. After all, what bride wouldn't want to begin her marriage with such an adventure? But sometimes, the most beautiful beginnings hide the ugliest truths. I didn't realise that my dream life was someone else's nightmare, that the man I trusted with my heart and future had woven an intricate web of lies that would unravel in the most painful way possible. My name is Eleanor, and this is how I discovered that my husband already had a family waiting for him in Portugal, a family he never told me about. Our love story began like something out of a romance novel. I was showcasing my artwork at a friend's gallery opening in Chicago when Ethan approached me. Tall, with warm brown eyes and an accent that hinted at European heritage, he stood mesmerised before my landscape series. "There's something about the way you capture light," he said, his eyes never leaving the canvas. "It reminds me of the golden hour in Porto." I smiled, flattered by his specific observation. "You've been to Portugal?" "I was born there," he replied, "but my heart has been waiting for something to bring me back." The way he looked at me then, like I was that something, sent butterflies through my stomach. We talked until the gallery closed, and by the time he asked for my number, I felt like I'd known him for years instead of hours. Our courtship was a whirlwind. Ethan was passionate, attentive, and seemingly transparent. He told me he'd moved to the States for college and stayed for work, but had always felt the pull of home. I found his devotion to his heritage endearing. The way he'd cook traditional Portuguese dishes, teach me phrases in his mother tongue, and tell stories of his childhood in Lisbon. "I've built some solid connections at an architectural firm there," he explained over dinner one night, about 3 months into our relationship. "If I went back, I could step into a senior position immediately." "That sounds amazing," I said, genuinely happy for him. "Long distance would be hard, though." He reached across the table, taking my hand. "I wasn't thinking of long distance, Eleanor. I was thinking you might consider coming with me." My heart raced. "To Portugal? But my life is here, my clients, my studio." "You're talented enough to find success anywhere," he insisted. "Your art is universal, and imagine the inspiration you'd find there. The architecture, the coastline, the history. Your work would transform." He painted such a vivid picture of our life there that I found myself nodding, imagining it too. An artist's loft in a historic building, weekend trips to secluded beaches, immersing ourselves in a rich culture so different from my own. 6 months into our relationship, Ethan proposed under the stars at Lake Michigan. He'd arranged a private dinner on the beach, with candles forming a path to a small table. As the city lights twinkled across the water, he got down on one knee. "Eleanor, you've brought colours into my life that I never knew existed," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "Will you make me the happiest man alive and marry me? Will you come home with me?" Through happy tears, I said yes. When I called my parents to share the news, their reaction wasn't what I expected. "6 months?" my mother questioned. "Sweetheart, that's so fast. And moving to another country, you barely know him." "Mum, when you know, I insisted. "Ethan is everything I've ever wanted." My father was more direct. "Has he introduced you to his family? Have you met anyone from his life before you?" I hadn't, I realised. Ethan had explained that his parents had passed away years ago, and his extended family was all in Portugal. As for friends, he said he'd been focused on work since moving to Chicago and hadn't formed many close bonds. All the more reason for us to go to Portugal, I reasoned. He's been alone for too long. Looking back, I should have seen these as red flags. But love has a way of turning warning signs into quirky character traits. His insistence on privacy became romantic mystery. His occasional disappearance for work calls became admirable dedication. His rush to get married became passionate certainty. 4 months later, we were wed in a small ceremony with just my family and a few friends. Ethan said he wanted to have a proper celebration once we were settled in Portugal, where his remaining family could attend. It made sense at the time. What didn't make sense was his stress as our departure date approached. Ethan became increasingly agitated, checking his phone constantly, disappearing for hours to finalise work details. When I asked about our living arrangements in Lisbon, he was vague. "My cousin has a place we can use while we look for our own," he said dismissively. "It's all taken care of." The morning of our flight, Ethan was a bundle of nerves. He snapped at me when I took too long with my coffee, then immediately apologised, blaming travel anxiety. On the plane, he drank 3 whiskies in quick succession and barely spoke, staring out the window with an expression I couldn't read. "Are you okay?" I asked, touching his arm. He flinched, then forced a smile. "Just thinking about all the changes ahead." I tried to soothe him. "We're in this together. Whatever comes, we'll face it as a team." If only I had known what was really waiting for us in Portugal. The first warning sign happened at baggage claim in Lisbon airport. As we waited for our suitcases, I noticed a woman staring at us, or rather, at Ethan. She was striking, with long dark hair and fierce eyes that never left my husband's face. When our gazes met, her expression shifted from shock to something like pity before she turned and walked away. "Do you know her?" I asked Ethan. He glanced up, frowning. "Who?" "That woman who was just staring at us." "Probably just thought I looked familiar," he said too quickly. "Grab your bag. It's coming now. The taxi will be waiting." He hurried me through the airport and into a cab before I could think more about it. As we drove through Lisbon, Ethan pointed out landmarks, his voice higher and faster than normal. I attributed his strange behaviour to excitement about being home. But there was something else there. A tension in his shoulders. A guardedness in his eyes. The taxi took us to a charming neighbourhood of narrow streets and colourful buildings. When we stopped in front of a pale blue apartment with wrought iron balconies overflowing with flowers, Ethan paid the driver quickly and ushered me inside before I could properly take in our surroundings. The apartment was beautiful, spacious and filled with light, with original tile work and high ceilings. But something felt off. It didn't have the impersonal feel of a place that had been sitting empty. There were subtle signs of life, a coffee cup in the sink, a newspaper from 2 days ago on the counter, a sweater draped over a chair that was definitely not Ethan's style. Most telling were the family photos that adorned the walls, Ethan with people I'd never seen before. In one, he had his arm around a beautiful dark-haired woman, the same one from the airport, I realised with a jolt. In another, he was holding a small child on his shoulders, 2 others clustered around his legs. "Ethan," I said slowly, pointing to the photos, "who are these people?" He swallowed hard. "My cousin's family. Remember, I told you we'd be staying at his place until we found our own?" "You're in a lot of these photos for someone who's been living in America for years." "I visit often," he said, avoiding my eyes. "Family is important in Portuguese culture. Come on, let me show you the bedroom. You must be exhausted." As he led me through the apartment, I noticed more discordant details. Children's toys hastily shoved into closets, women's toiletries in the bathroom cabinet, a wardrobe full of clothes that weren't ours. "Your cousin has children?" I asked, picking up a small stuffed animal from behind the couch. "Yes, 3, Ethan answered, taking the toy from my hand and tossing it into a drawer. "They'll be away for the summer, so we have the place to ourselves for a while." I wanted to believe him. I needed to believe him. We had left everything behind for this move. My art studio, my clients, my family. I had married this man for God's sake. So I nodded and unpacked my clothes into the small space he had cleared in the wardrobe, ignoring the fact that what remained were women's clothes exactly my size. That night, as Ethan slept beside me, I lay awake in a stranger's bed, in a home filled with evidence of a life I knew nothing about, feeling the first real pangs of doubt. What had I gotten myself into? And why couldn't I shake the feeling that I had seen that woman's face before, not just at the airport, but somewhere else? Little did I know, in just a few days, my entire world would come crashing down around me. The truth was far worse than anything I could have imagined. The next few days were a strange dance of discovery and denial. Ethan left early each morning, kissing me goodbye with promises of returning for lunch to show me around the city. Sometimes he did. Other times a text would arrive with apologies about meetings running long. When he was home, he was attentive, loving, the man I had fallen for in Chicago. But there were moments when his mask slipped, revealing something darker underneath. Like the evening he received a call during dinner and stepped onto the balcony to answer it. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop, but his voice carried through the open window. Rapid Portuguese, lowered to an urgent whisper. I caught only fragments. She doesn't suspect. Few more weeks. I'll explain everything. The children. My fork clattered against my plate. When he returned, his face was flushed, smile too bright. Everything okay? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Just work, he replied smoothly. The firm is eager for me to start full-time. Speaking of which, I was thinking maybe tomorrow I could take you to see the office. Show you where I'll be working? I agreed, but that night I couldn't sleep. Around 3 a.m, I slipped out of bed and began to really investigate the apartment. In the kitchen drawer, beneath a stack of takeout menus, I found utility bills addressed to Ethan and Katerina Oliveira. In a desk drawer, school enrollment forms for 3 children, Sophia, Miguel and Luisa Oliveira, and, in a box, high on a closet shelf, a wedding album. With trembling hands, I opened it. There was Ethan, younger but unmistakable, in a tuxedo. Beside him stood the woman from the airport, radiant in white lace. The date embossed on the album's cover, June 12th, 2012, 12 years ago. I sat on the closet floor until dawn broke, the evidence of my husband's other life scattered around me. Was I his wife at all? Was our Chicago wedding even legal? Who was the stranger sleeping in the next room? When morning came, I put everything back exactly as I'd found it. I showered, dressed, and made coffee, as if my world hadn't just imploded. When Ethan emerged from the bedroom, I handed him a cup with a smile that felt like broken glass on my lips. Actually, I said casually, I think I'll explore on my own today. You go to work. I want to get my bearings. Maybe find a cafe to sketch in. Relief washed over his face, so naked and immediate that it was almost insulting. That's perfect, actually. There's a big presentation I should prepare for anyway. Of course there was. After he left, I sat at the kitchen table, trying to formulate a plan. I could confront him when he returned, but what if he lied again? I needed more information. I needed to understand what kind of web I had walked into. The logical place to start was the neighbourhood. In small communities, people talk, and I desperately needed someone to talk to me. I wandered the winding streets until I found a quaint cafe a few blocks from the apartment. It was cosy inside, with mismatched chairs and local art on the walls. The young woman behind the counter smiled as I approached. Bom dia, I attempted, one of the few Portuguese phrases I knew. Good morning, she replied in perfect English. You're American. I nodded. That obvious, huh? A bit, she laughed. I'm Mariana. What brings you to our neighbourhood? I just moved here, I said, testing the waters. With my husband. Oh, welcome, she said warmly. Where are you staying? I described the blue apartment building. Her smile faltered slightly. The Oliveira place? She asked. My heart skipped. Yes, that's right. Do you know it? Mariana's expression changed, confusion clouding her features. Are you a friend of the family? You could say that, I hedged. I'm actually staying there while they're away. A beat of silence passed. I didn't realize they were away, she said carefully. Katerina was in here just yesterday with little Louisa. My mouth went dry. Katerina? Is she the wife? Now Mariana looked truly puzzled. Yes, Ethan's wife. They've been married for years. They're fixtures in the neighbourhood. She tilted her head. I am sorry, but who did you say you were? The room seemed to tilt. I'm also Ethan's wife, I whispered. We were married 4 months ago in Chicago. Mariana's hand flew to her mouth. Behind her, an older woman who had been listening emerged from the kitchen, wiping flour from her hands. You are the American woman, the older woman said. It wasn't a question. Ethan brought you here. I nodded mutely. May, Mariana said to her mother, ela diz que é casada com Ethan Oliveira? The older woman, Mariana's mother, pulled up a chair across from me, her eyes filled with a compassion that made me want to crumble. I am Rosa, she said, taking my trembling hands in hers, and I think, querida, that you have been deceived in the cruelest way. Over the next hour, with Mariana translating when Rosa's English failed her, I learned the truth. Ethan Oliveira was indeed an architect, well respected in the community. He and Katerina had been married for 12 years and had 3 children. Sophia, 10, Miguel, 8, and Luisa, 5. They lived in the very apartment where I had been sleeping, though Katerina and the children were currently staying with her sister while some renovations were being completed on the kids' rooms. He told you they were away for the summer? Rosa asked incredulously. He said it was his cousin's place, I replied, my voice hollow. Mariana and Rosa exchanged glances. The renovations will be finished next week, Mariana explained gently. Katerina and the children will be moving back in. Did Ethan mention this to you? I shook my head, feeling sick. He said we would find our own place soon. Rosa muttered something in Portuguese that sounded like a curse. This isn't the first time, she said grimly. There was another woman 2 years ago, Brazilian. He brought her here, told her similar lies. When she discovered the truth, she left in the night. We never saw her again. And Katerina? I asked, stunned. She knows. She suspected, Mariana said. The Brazilian woman left a note, but Ethan convinced her it was a misunderstanding, that the woman was disturbed. Katerina chose to believe him for the children's sake. But you, Rosa gestured at me, you are different. A wife, not just a girlfriend. This is much worse. I felt as though I was drowning. Why would he do this? Why bring me here to the very neighbourhood where his family lives? It's insane. Rosa sighed heavily. Men like Ethan, they live for the thrill of deception. The more dangerous the lie, the more exciting. But also... She hesitated. Also what? Your passport, Mariana said quietly. Did he take it for safekeeping when you arrived? Cold realization washed over me. My passport was indeed in Ethan's desk drawer. He had offered to put it somewhere safe until we registered my residency. And your money, Rosa pressed. Your access to funds? We had opened a joint account before leaving the States, with most of my savings transferred in. I had access, but Ethan had suggested I let him handle the finances until I was comfortable with the exchange rate and local banking system. He's isolating you, Mariana explained, seeing my expression, making you dependent. The Brazilian woman, she had no way to leave when she wanted to. My mother had to loan her money for a ticket home. I don't understand the end game, I said, my voice breaking. What does he get out of this? Control, Rosa said simply. Over you, over Katerina, over the narrative of his life. Men like this, they need to be the hero in every story, the desired one, the provider. But more than that, they need the danger, the chaos they create. It feeds something broken inside them. As the reality of my situation sank in, I felt a strange calm settle over me. There would be time for tears later. Right now, I needed a plan. "Does Katerina come to this cafe often?" I asked. "Almost daily," Mariana confirmed. "She usually brings Louisa around 3 p.m. after kindergarten." I checked my watch. It was just past noon. I need to talk to her, I decided, woman to woman. Rosa looked alarmed. "Are you sure that's wise? She might not believe you." I pulled out my phone, scrolling to photos of Ethan and me on our wedding day. "She'll believe these." The next 3 hours were excruciating. Rosa insisted I eat something, bringing me soup and bread that I could barely taste. Mariana closed the cafe early, hanging a family emergency sign on the door. We sat together, 3 women bound by one man's lies, waiting for a 4th to arrive. At 3:15 p.m, the bell above the door chimed. Katerina Oliveira entered, holding the hand of a small girl with Ethan's eyes and dimples. I recognized them both instantly from the photos in the apartment. My heart constricted painfully. Katerina spotted Rosa and smiled, then noticed the closed sign and the somber gathering. Her eyes landed on me, recognition flickering. She had seen me at the airport. "Hola," she said cautiously, her gaze moving between the 3 of us. Rosa stood, speaking softly in Portuguese, gesturing toward me. Katerina's face drained of colour. She looked at me again, truly seeing me this time. "You are with Ethan," she said in accented but clear English. "At the airport, and you are staying in my home." I nodded, standing on shaky legs. "I think we need to talk." "Louisa," Mariana interjected gently, "would you like to help me make some hot chocolate in the kitchen?" The little girl nodded eagerly, and Mariana led her away, leaving me alone with the woman whose husband I had unwittingly married. Katerina sat across from me, her posture rigid, eyes wary. "Rosa says you claim to be Ethan's wife." Without a word, I opened my phone and slid it across the table to her, the wedding photo displayed on the screen. She stared at it for a long moment, her breathing shallow. "When?" she asked, her voice barely audible. 4 months ago in Chicago. And you came here, why?" "Because Ethan said it was where we would build our life together, that he had a job waiting at an architectural firm, that we would find our own place." Katerina closed her eyes briefly. When she opened them, they were filled with tears, but also a steely resolve. "Show me everything," she said, sour. For the next hour, we pieced together Ethan's double life. Katerina confirmed that he travelled frequently for work. Architectural conferences in the US, project consultations, client meetings. His most recent trip to Chicago had lasted 3 weeks. 3 weeks, she repeated bitterly. "Long enough to marry you, apparently." I showed her photos, texts, the digital wedding certificate on my phone. She, in turn, revealed what she knew of the Brazilian woman 2 years ago. "He told me she was a stalker," Katerina said, shaking her head, "that she had become obsessed with him at a conference and followed him home. I believed him." "And now?" I asked softly. "Now I see the pattern," she replied, her voice hardening. "This is what he does. He finds women when he's travelling, convinces them he's single, sweeps them off their feet. But you..." She shook her head again. "Marriage is new. Bringing you here is new. He's getting bolder, more reckless. Or more confident that he can control the situation," I suggested. "That he can manipulate everyone involved." Katerina nodded slowly. "The question is, what do we do now?" I took a deep breath. "I think we need to confront him. Together." For the first time since she'd entered the cafe, something like a smile touched Katerina's lips. "Yes," she agreed. "I think it's time my husband meets my husband's wife." We planned our confrontation with military precision. Katerina called her sister, arranging for the older children to stay there overnight, while little Louisa would remain with Rosa and her family. Then, Katerina texted Ethan, asking him to come home early for a special dinner. Just the two of them. "He'll be suspicious if I'm too sweet," she explained, her voice detached, clinical. "But he's been asking for a date night for weeks. He'll think I've forgiven him for being distant." I marvelled at her composure. 12 years of marriage to Ethan had taught her how to navigate his moods, his expectations. The children's well-being clearly drove her measured approach. "What about your marriage?" I asked as we walked back to the apartment. Her apartment. "Before all this, were you happy?" Katerina was quiet for a moment. "I thought we were. Ethan is charming when he wants to be. The children adore him. But there were always gaps, unexplained absences, strange calls, little lies that didn't add up." She glanced at me. "I told myself it was normal, that all marriages have secrets." "He makes you feel special," I said, "like you're the only person who truly sees him." "Yes," she agreed. "That's his gift, and his weapon." At the apartment, Katerina cooked a traditional Portuguese dinner, setting the table for two with a third setting hidden in the kitchen. I would wait in the children's bedroom until her signal, letting Ethan settle in before the trap closed. "Are you sure about this?" Katerina asked as 7 p.m. approached. "You could go back to America without ever seeing him again." I shook my head. "I need to face him. I need to see his reaction when his two worlds collide. Otherwise, I'll always wonder if there was some explanation." She nodded. "Just don't expect remorse. Men like Ethan, they don't feel guilt the way we do." At 7:15, we heard his key in the lock. I slipped into the children's room, heart hammering. Through the partially open door, I watched Ethan enter with a bouquet of flowers, wearing that warm smile that had once made me believe I was the centre of his universe. "Smells amazing," he said, kissing Katerina's cheek. "What's the occasion?" "Do I need an occasion to cook for my husband?" she replied, her voice impressively normal. They moved around each other with the easy familiarity of long-term partners. It was surreal, like watching an actor play a different role in a familiar movie. "Speaking of surprises," Katerina said casually, "I ran into Mariana today." Ethan's shoulders tensed slightly. "Oh? How is she?" "Good. She mentioned meeting an American woman who's staying in our apartment, said she was very upset about something." His wine glass paused halfway to his lips. "What American woman?" "That's what I wondered," Katerina continued, "because I haven't invited any Americans to stay in our home. Have you, Ethan?" His face remained composed, but I could see the calculations happening behind his eyes. "Must be a misunderstanding. You know how Mariana exaggerates." Katerina murmured. "That's what I thought too, until I met her myself." She raised her voice slightly. "Eleanor, would you join us, please?" The look on Ethan's face as I emerged from the bedroom is something I'll never forget. Pure panic flashed in his eyes, the primal fear of a cornered animal. Then, remarkably, his features rearranged into confusion. "Eleanor, what are you doing here?" He stood, looking between us. "Katerina, this is a colleague from Chicago. Why is she in our home?" I nearly laughed at the audacity. "Really, Ethan? That's your play?" Katerina's eyes hardened. "Sit down," she commanded. Surprisingly, he obeyed. "Eleanor has shown me everything. The wedding photos, the texts, your plans to start a new life together." "She's lying," Ethan said immediately. "She's obsessed with me. We worked on a project together and she developed feelings. I let her down gently, but She followed me here. This is exactly what happened with Marcella. The Brazilian woman? I asked. The one you also married under false pretenses? Something shifted in his expression, a flicker of recalculation. Katerina? He tried again, reaching for her hand. She withdrew it sharply. You know me. We have a family. Would I really risk all that? This woman is clearly disturbed. Stop, Katerina said, her voice quietly devastating. Just stop, Ethan. It's over. Silence filled the apartment. Then Ethan laughed, a hollow, unnerving sound. Over? Nothing is over. This is a misunderstanding. I pulled out my phone, queuing up a video from our wedding. Is this a misunderstanding too? I asked, pressing play. Ethan's voice filled the room. I, Ethan James Oliveira, take you, Elena Marie Ramirez, to be my lawfully wedded wife. His face went blank. A mask dropping away to reveal nothing. No shame, no remorse, not even anger, just empty calculation. Fine, he said eventually, his tone suddenly businesslike. So, I made a mistake. People make mistakes when they're unhappy. A mistake? Katerina echoed incredulously. You married another woman. Because you stopped seeing me years ago, he snapped. Always busy with the children, with your sister, with the house. I needed something that was mine. I am not a something, I interjected, disgust rising in my throat. I'm a person whose life you upended for... What? A thrill? Ethan turned to me, his expression softening in that practiced way I once found so genuine. It wasn't like that, Eleanor. What we had was real. I just couldn't find a way out of my old life. Don't, I warned. Don't try to manipulate this situation. His eyes hardened. You have no idea what will or won't work. You're in a foreign country with no support system, living in my home. Your money is in accounts I control. Even your passport isn't readily accessible. Katerina laughed, a startling, genuine sound. Is that a threat? You think you still hold all the cards? She reached into her purse and pulled out a stack of papers. Divorce papers, drawn up this afternoon. You can't be serious, Ethan scoffed. One misunderstanding and you're throwing away 12 years? Think of the children. I am thinking of the children, Katerina replied firmly. I'm thinking they deserve better than a father who creates chaos wherever he goes. He turned to me then, desperation creeping into his voice. Eleanor, please. You know what we had was special. Save it, I cut him off. I've heard enough lies to last a lifetime. I pulled out my one-way ticket to Chicago, purchased with an emergency credit card Katerina had found in my wallet. One Ethan didn't know about. I'm leaving tomorrow. Running away won't solve anything. He tried switching tactics. We should talk about this rationally. There's nothing to talk about, I interrupted. You've been living a double life and now it's over. Something ugly flashed across his face. You think it's that simple? Our marriage is legal, Eleanor. You're my wife. Actually, Katerina interjected, sliding another document across the table. Bigamy is illegal in both Portugal and the United States. Your marriage to Elena isn't valid because you are already married to me. Ethan stared at the paper, his composure finally cracking completely. This is insane, he muttered. You two, conspiring against me like this. What exactly have you done for me, Ethan? I asked quietly. Besides lie to me, isolate me, and try to control me? I loved you, he insisted, but the words rang hollow. No, I said firmly. You loved the idea of me, the challenge, the game. Ethan stood abruptly, his chair scraping across the floor. I don't have to listen to this. This is my home. Not anymore, Katerina cut in. My name is on the deed too, and I've already changed the locks. Your things are packed in suitcases by the door. His face contorted with rage, and for a moment I feared he might become violent. Instead, he laughed again. That same empty sound. You think this changes anything? I'll contest the divorce. I'll take the children. You'll do nothing of the sort, came a new voice from the doorway. We all turned to see Rosa standing there with another woman. A police officer, I realised. Katerina called me when you arrived, Rosa explained. I thought it wise to bring help, just in case. The officer stepped forward. Senor Oliveira, we have reports of fraud, possible financial abuse and bigamy. I need you to come to the station to answer some questions. Ethan's face drained of colour. This is ridiculous. I'm not going anywhere. It wasn't a request, the officer said calmly, and your work visa situation is also of interest to immigration authorities. As the reality of his situation dawned on him, Ethan's carefully constructed world began to crumble before our eyes. The mask slipped completely, revealing the frightened, angry man beneath. This isn't over, he hissed as the officer escorted him out. None of this will hold up. When the door closed behind them, Katerina and I looked at each other in silence. Then, to my surprise, she started to laugh, a genuine, relieved sound that I found myself joining. So, she said, wiping tears from her eyes, would you like some dinner? It seems a shame to waste it. That night, we shared a meal and our stories, two women united by the same betrayal. We stayed up until dawn, emptying a bottle of wine, alternating between anger, grief, and, surprisingly, hope. The next morning, as Katerina drove me to the airport, she reached over and squeezed my hand. I'm sorry for what he did to you, but I'm not sorry we met. There's something poetic about it, don't you think? His greatest deception led to his downfall. I smiled, feeling lighter than I had in days. What will you do now? Rebuild, she said simply. Focus on my children. Learn to trust again, eventually. And you? The same, I suppose. Though without the children part. Not yet, she corrected with a smile. Life is long, Eleanor, and you are stronger than you know. As my plane took off from Lisbon, I watched the city that had almost been my home fade into the distance. I thought about Ethan, about the lies that had brought me here, about the strange twists of fate that had revealed the truth. Some might call what happened to me a tragedy, the ultimate betrayal by someone I thought loved me. But sitting there, flying back to a life I would now rebuild on my own terms, I felt something unexpected, gratitude. Not for Ethan's deception, but for the freedom his exposure had given me, freedom from lies, freedom from manipulation, freedom to discover my own strength. I had come to Portugal as someone's wife. I was leaving as my own woman. And in that transformation, I had found something far more valuable than the false love Ethan had offered. I had found myself.